Hello and welcome to Monkey Knife Fight Live. Folks, I'm your host, Connor Roundtree, and today I'm joined by guest analyst Noor Zainab and Nick Whalen. We're talking Suns, we're talking Bucks, we're talking Game 2 of the NBA Finals. Game 1 saw the Suns defeat the Bucks 118-105. The Suns take the 1-0 series lead. Game 2 tips off tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Well, all three of us were wrong on Devin Booker versus Chris Middleton in Monkey Knife Fights Rapid Fire. Noor, you like CP3 to go off in Game 1. What did you think of the first game as a whole?
First and foremost, I want to hear thank yous. I want to hear you were right.
I gave you the acknowledgement. On the intro, I literally gave you the acknowledgement. You called him to go off. And he did.
I think I said that maybe like 10 times last episode. Like if you were making it a drinking game, he would have been dead by the end of it. And he did what I thought he was gonna do. He realized it was his first game. It was his first finals. He was supposed to come there, guns blazing, make his impact on the floor, and that's exactly what he did. I think the only thing for me was whether or not he was going to be his usual Chris Paul self, which is passing and delegating and spacing and making sure that his guys are going. But he was aggressive. He had the most points for the Suns. He made all the important shots. His stat line was he was just crazy. I think it was like 58% from field goals, 63 from three or something like that. He 4 out of 4 for free throws, 9 assists. Probably could have gotten a couple more, had been a double-double. The funniest part for me though was just how Chris Paul is so Chris Paul, like towards the end of the game. He takes DeAndre Ayton's 20th rebound and he's just like, well, this one's mine. I'm going to take it. You're not going to get your 20 double-double. You make any kind of Guinness World Records or whatever. And that's just the Chris Paul that like that's just who he is. And he brought it up. And I think that tonight is going to be more of what kind of Chris Paul are you going to see? Is he going to be the same aggressive? Is he going to be scoring and making sure that he's getting his game going first and foremost? Or is he going to delegate once more? I'm excited to see.
Nick, you also had the Suns in Game 1. What did you think of the first game of the series?
I thought that it was a pretty discouraging night for the Milwaukee Bucks because at the time that we recorded on Tuesday, none of us expected Giannis Antetokounmpo to play. I believe at the time he was still listed as doubtful. And shortly after we finished, he was bumped up to questionable. But even at that point, it was 50-50 at best. And it really wasn't until about an hour before tip-off where it really became clear that he was going to play. And not only did he play, but he played pretty well. He played 35 minutes, did only take 11 shots, but got to the line 12 times, almost had a 2020 game himself. But he played really well. And I think on one hand, it's encouraging that Giannis seems to be fine physically. He slowed down a little bit in the second half, but looked really good, especially early on. That energy was there. But for the Bucks to lose that game by double digits, despite Giannis playing well, despite hitting 16 three-pointers, despite getting a good game from Chris Middleton, it's just a little discouraging. To me, it felt like both teams played their B+ game. The Suns didn't shoot it all that well from three. Booker and Crowder were 1 of 13 combined. The Suns have a lot of room to improve. The Bucks also have some room to improve, but it feels like the Bucks played pretty well in Game 1, and they still lose that game by 13. So, to me, it's just one of those things where obviously you can say they need to make adjustments, but what are the adjustments? Is it play more Bryn Forbes? Is it play more Bobby Portis? They don't necessarily have the manpower that we see on the other side, where you can bring in someone like a Cam Johnson. He'll hit two quick threes from the corner. Torrey Craig can give you something on the defensive end. The Bucks run out of depth really, really quickly, and we saw them shuffle through adjustment after adjustment after adjustment. Whether that means, subbing in Bobby Portis. Brook Lopez didn't play the entire fourth quarter. We saw Bryn Forbes in the fourth quarter. I don't think this game falls on Coach Bud, who's taken a ton of heat in the postseason. I feel like he tried everything and nothing worked. They got it down to 7, I think around the 7-minute mark in the fourth quarter. But I assume you guys feel the same way. Anyone watching that game, you never felt like, oh, here come the Bucks. It just felt like they were scratching and clawing, and that was the closest they could ever get.
Well, for me, just sitting at home watching it, it was all Phoenix all the time. Noor, right. What did you think of the game as a whole outside of Chris Paul?
I think like Nick mentioned, it was honestly kind of eye-opening, right? We didn't see the Suns being, probably most people people had, but I just didn't see them being this way. I realized that they had a really good Western Conference run. Granted, yes, they went through teams that were injured, but they still went through one of the better teams, right? They cleared the Lakers, they cleared the Nuggets, they cleared the Clippers. Yes, they had people that were missing, but the Suns were also injured. You've seen Chris Paul, who's injured. You've also seen Booker, who's injured. You've had people in and out of the lineups. You just saw Dario Saric go down 2 nights ago. I think what happens with the Suns is they have developed and they have put the team together and they've put the right guys around Chris Paul and Booker. Because if you look at Chris Paul, like we said, he's able to get you scoring, but the best thing he does on the floor is he delegates. And what they've done with him is they've surrounded him with the best people to be able to do that and to get his assists. They've got Cam Johnson, you have both Cams, right? You have Booker, you have DeAndre Ayton, and DeAndre Ayton has been just absolutely phenomenal. And when you have guys like that, plus pair that with a coach like Monty Williams, who can adjust on the fly, who can move things around. I don't know what the Bucks are going to do. Maybe they need to go small. Maybe they have to play Giannis at the 5 just to be able to work around the backcourt of the Suns. But beyond that, I was going to say, like, I think it should be still a long series. It could go 6, maybe 7. But I think it's going to be like, I can see the Suns doing it. I just didn't see this powerhouse coming 2 nights ago. Because if you saw the regular season, you've seen Giannis go off. He had to have crazy games. But even regardless of that, like, they kept it pretty close. And then 2 nights ago, you just saw the Bucks barely making it back. I think they just had one really good run in the 4th. And beyond that, it went out of their hands again. I don't know what like Nick said, I don't know what their rule of thumb is going to be. I don't know where they go from here. They probably need to play. I think knowing that Saric has gone down now, they would have to replace his minutes with somebody else. Only thing I can say is Bud was going to have to make sure that the people, like, he mismatches with Giannis. So if Ayton's not on the court, he makes sure that he's putting Giannis on so that Giannis can get more touches and get to the rim a lot better. But if you're going to see Ayton play a little bit more as well, I don't know how it's going to go down for the Bucks.
Well, obviously, Giannis still has that hyperextended knee. And getting into that first monkey knife fight contest, the first featured more or less contest, it's Giannis versus Devin Booker, pardon me. Last night, these lines, they flip-flopped. Devin Booker going into last night was 26.5 points. Giannis was 27.5. Now it's the exact opposite. Could that be due to the knee injury of Giannis and Devin Booker? Are people high on him? What do you think about that, Nick? How do you see this more or less contest playing out into game 2?
I'm inclined to go over on both of these numbers. Giannis is a little bit iffy. We'll see how that knee responds with 48 hours between games. But like I said at the top, I was pretty encouraged by what we saw from him physically. I think where he needed to maybe catch up a little bit and shake off some rust is just kind of the mental part of the game. Like, there were a lot of times where he's just flying into the lane and kind of getting caught in the air and had to make some wild jump passes. And that's something that when you don't play a game in a week and you're coming off of a knee injury, you can't really replicate anything during that time off. So I think he'll look a little better, a little sharper in game 2. And it's encouraging that he got to 20 plus points in game 1, despite playing reduced minutes. I mean, he only played 35 minutes and only took 11 shots. So to me, it's conceivable that if he feels really good and, he's closer to 100%, I think he probably proved to the Bucks medical staff in game 1 that, like, hey, I'm good to go here. It's conceivable to me that he could play 10 more minutes in this game and take 10 more shots. And based on what we've seen from him in the playoffs, I think that would imply that he'll have a really good chance to go over that 27.5 number. With Booker, you're getting him at 26.5. He went over that number in game 1. But a lot of the way that he got there was, hitting really difficult shots. Like, both he and Chris Paul were on fire in the mid-range, especially towards the end of the second quarter and into the third quarter when Phoenix really made its run. I mean, those guys were hitting everything. And Booker did get to the line a ton. He was 10 of 10 at the line, a contributing factor to Phoenix. I think they started 25 of 25 at the line before missing one at the end. But you can't necessarily count on the 10 free throws being there. But at the same time, he's not going to go 1 of 8 from 3 again. And almost every single one of those looks, if I recall, what was wide open. He had a couple of heaves at the end of quarters that count against his 3-point shooting, but weren't actually misses. But the 5 3-pointers that he actually missed were really good looks. So I think there's a good chance that he probably doesn't get 10 free throws, but he could also hit 3 or 4 threes tonight.
Nor, How do you see this more or less contest playing out? Because obviously you were really high on Chris Paul in game one. He had the 9 assists. Devin Booker, we didn't get there with the points, but now up to 27.5 points. May I remind you, what do you like on the Booker line? Do you like more or do you like less?
I'm gonna go with more as well as Nick. I think just given the fact that if that was his game one, he had 8 of 21 from the field goal, 1 of 8 from 3. I don't see Booker having that game again. It's just it's Booker. He's gonna do well. And I think the other part of it too is depending on how Chris Paul is going to be, right? Like if Chris Paul is going to be a little bit more passive this game, then you're going to see a lot more shots from Devin Booker. You're going to see a lot more shots go in. And then on the other hand too, I think with Giannis, just like Nick mentioned, it's sorry, you already picked Giannis. I was doing Booker, my bad.
No, that's Jason making a mistake on your end. You're all good, Nor.
Thanks a lot, Jason's Jason. Fault. You're making me look bad.
You guys are welcome.
It's not me, it's the producer. And then with Giannis too, I think it's just the fact that, like Nick mentioned again, the same thing. He just came back from an injury. He did not look like he was injured. If anything, Chris Paul looked more injured than he did. And the fact that he was able to get those points moving forward, I think it's going to be, it's Giannis. He's going to be able to get those points when he needs to. He will get to the rim. It's just a matter of if he's healthy or not. But the fact that he was able to get what he did the last game, I think it bodes well for him now. I think just the fact that they are able to get more accustomed to the other team and figure out where their better shot selections will be, what's the better route for them to take. I think that's where Giannis would be. At the same time, Drew's as quiet as he has been just for scoring, he's still been really good at delegating and making sure that his guys are getting going. So I think I'm going to go for over for both.
Well, you guys brought up an excellent point, how good and how well Giannis played in that game. It didn't look like he had a knee injury. He was super aggressive, getting the block up on the glass. That was a great play. And then 17 rebounds. I mean, yeah, he doesn't look too injured to me. So I got to agree with you on that. So you can lock in your picks on Monkey Knife Fight there. And then when Jason gets back to Monkey Knife Fight, we'll see that. No worries.
Just gotta make sure how the clout tweet's doing, right? It's a Twitter clout, Jason.
I was
staying on top of everything.
Actually, I think we have about 10 minutes before the Zoom meeting is going to end because that's a wonderful thing that I missed on upgrading our Zoom call info. And so, just so you guys know, there's about 8 minutes remaining. I have a little countdown, 8:39 that is. So enjoy the last 8:30 of the call.
Well, we're going to jump right into the next contest then. If you scroll down on Monkey Knife Fight, you can see that all the more or less contests for this matchup, the 2 for 2 more or less contests are paying 3.6 times. So that's a pretty good payday. If you like those picks, make sure you lock them in and you'll be in to win. Moving on to our second more or less contest on Monkey Knife Fight. It's Chris Middleton and Chris Paul in assists. Middleton with the line of 25.5 points and Chris Paul with the line of 8.5 assists. Nor, we have to throw this one to you first. Chris Paul's your guy. What do you think he does with that line on assists in game 2?
You said that was going to be 9 assists, right?
Yeah, it's 8.5 assists. So he needs to get to 9.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. He had 9 last night, the 2 nights ago, right? And that was with Booker barely hitting his shots, like barely really doing anything with it. Granted, yes, he had the cams next to him. DeAndre Ayton had a wonderful game. Chris Paul really got him going. I think 8 assists for Chris Paul is a bad night. Moving forward, I think he's only going to get better. And just given the fact that he had more of a quiet game 2 nights ago in terms of passing, and he was more focused on scoring. Let's say he does focus a little bit more on passing tonight, just because he is a little bit older. He could get a little bit tired, that is what it is. So I think just given that, I'm going to go with over for Chris Paul. Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think, Nick? We're going to throw you the Middleton line. 25.5 points. What do you think he does tonight? Because he had an excellent game 1.
He did. He hit a lot of really tough shots that kept the Bucks within striking distance, at least in the second half of game 1. I don't know that you can count on that happening again. He's on a pretty nice run here, dating back to those last 2 games against Atlanta. But the reason that Chris Middleton is because he's typically unable to keep these hot streaks going. Like that's what always prevents him. Like just when you're ready to put him into that top tier of guards and wings in the league, he'll have a 15 points on 5 of 23 type of night in a really big spot. And, I don't know if that game's going to come tonight. I don't know if it's going to come game 3, game 4. It's going to happen at some point. But I think I'm inclined to go under. It felt like he, a lot of the shots that he was hitting late in that game were pull-up threes, step-back threes. He really had to work for every single one of those points. And the Bucks were not getting a friendly whistle. I think Chris Middleton probably could have gotten to the line 5 to 6 times more than he did in that game. I don't know that you can count on that turning around, certainly not on the road tonight. So I'm inclined to go under on that Chris Middleton number. One note on Chris Paul, by the way, 21 potential assists in game 1. He finished with 9 assists. So there were 12 possible assists that his teammates did not finish in that game. That's got to turn around in game 2.
Well, we're going to get right into that right now with another rapid fire contest. So if you head over to Monkey Knife Fight, actually right now, I'm on there myself. The live rapid fire, the feature rapid fire contest, you have the assist battle between Drew Holiday and Chris Paul. We talked about that last show. They both finished with 9 assists in game 1. Nick, you ended up being right. You had the 1.5 assists in hand. Nor didn't go through the way that you thought it would. But again, the line now is just 0.5 assists in hand for Drew Holiday. Nor, we'll throw this one to you first. How do you see Chris Paul versus Drew Holiday in the assist matchup for game 2?
Not to cut you guys off, but I fixed the problem with the minutes. We're good. I upgraded to pro.
I'm going to stop rushing through the rest of this show. Slow down. Take your time.
That was really funny that like the second it's done, you're like, we have to get through this. We have to go.
Well, I wanted to make sure we got the contest out for the listeners. We are Monkey Knife Fight. We're trying to get our listeners in and let them know.
Cliffhanger. It would have been nice.
Oh, Jason, you are breaking me down right now. Anyway, back to the live contest, the rapid fire, talking some assist battle. Nick just brought it up, but we're throwing this one to Nora first. Let her get her say in about Chris Paul versus Drew Holiday before we get Nick to chime in on this matchup. Nora, what do you think?
Yeah, I think in terms of Chris Paul and Drew Holiday, like I said, I think Drew Holiday has always been a very quiet kind of guy. Like you've seen him before in the past years where he is able to give you those scoring nights, but we just haven't really seen it with the Bucks yet, especially in the playoffs. It's been very quiet from him. And I think, like Nick mentioned before, it kind of sucks because you do need that extra shooting and that depth, especially to match whatever the Suns have got going. So in that regard, I think just because he's not able to do it, I think he's going to focus more on facilitating, more on getting his shots around, more on passing. And I would probably give him the edge had it not been for the fact that Chris Paul had that night 2 nights ago. And I just think tonight, Chris Paul probably takes it a little bit easier. I think his teammates maybe hit a little bit extra shots just because they're a lot more confident. They're still at home. They feel better they know where their shot selections now are. And again, it's Chris Paul. Like he can get these guys going no matter what. So, I think I'm going to be inclined to go a little bit more with Drew Holiday just because he, given the fact that if Giannis is healthy too, like he's going to make sure that Giannis is getting going.
Nick,
that sucks. That hurt me actually.
Yeah, I was honestly, I don't know if anyone saw my face. I was in genuine shock. I was in disbelief. Nick, what do you think? Are you going with Nora or you think CP3 has a couple more tricks up his sleeve for game 2?
I completely disagree on the fact that Chris Paul could be taking it easy. I don't think that's going to happen at all. I think he came out with a vengeance in game 1. I think he's been waiting for this for 16 years and is not going to take his foot off the gas at any point. I think he showed us that with some of those runs that he pretty much single-handedly produced over the second half of game 1. So I think we see a very similarly aggressive Chris Paul. Maybe not every mid-range shot is falling for him, but I don't think he takes his foot off the gas whatsoever. Both these guys have been putting up huge assist totals throughout the playoffs. Holiday has at least 9 assists in 6 of his last 7. I talked about Chris Paul, 21 potential assists in game 1. Both guys finished with 9 assists. Drew Holiday only had 12 potential assists. So the Bucks converted 9 of 12 potential assists. The Suns only converted 9 of 21. That tells me that Chris Paul has a lot more room to grow in terms of his assist total if some of those shots that he's passing into start falling in game 2, which I think they will. Whereas Drew Holiday, the Bucks typically aren't going to convert those at a 75% rate. So I feel like there's a chance that Drew Holiday maybe falls back a little bit, whereas I think there's a chance that we could see Chris Paul finish with 11, 12, 13 assists if some of those three-pointers start falling for guys like Devin Booker and Jake Crowder.
Well, for the second matchup, we're going to look at the superstars for each team. We talked about them earlier in the more or less contest, but now we're putting them head to head. Giannis has the 1.5 point in hand over Devin Booker entering tonight's matchup. Nick, what do you think? Do you think that 1.5 is going to be enough for the injured Giannis, or do you think he'd need a little bit more to keep up with Booker in game 2?
I think that's enough. I think, while I do think Devin Booker, shoots better from 3, I don't think that he gets to the line 10 times, like I said before. And I think a lot of the really difficult shots that were falling in game one maybe come back to earth. So I think he could have a similar performance to game one when you're talking about his point total at the end of the game. But I think Giannis has a lot of room to jump up. I mean, only 11 shot attempts in game one, only 35 minutes. I think we see him fully deployed for 43, 44, 45 minutes in this game. And I think we see a much more aggressive version of Giannis. I mean, there were times where, I think the Suns did a really good job of digging the ball out. When Giannis caught it like 1 foot from the rim, there were instantly 3 guys around him. He was having trouble controlling the ball, did draw a lot of fouls, and actually shot it fairly well, I guess, by his standards at the free throw line. I think Phoenix is fine if they have to send him to the line 15 times in this game. And he hits 8 or 9 of those. That's 9 free points that you're tacking on to his total. So I think game one for Giannis by default, because of the injury, kind of had to be a feel out game. He just didn't seem as intense as normal. I think he kind of knew, like, I'm testing this out. Hopefully it works. And it did. And I think now we kind of go back to seeing the normal aggressive, I'm bullying my way to the rim. There's nothing you can do to stop me, Giannis, in game two. So I would be shocked if he's as passive as he was in game one.
Nor, what do you think? Do you think that the Suns, do you think Booker can keep up, maybe sharpen his 3-point shooting a little bit? Or are you going to go with Nick and think that Giannis is just going to be too powerful in game two?
Ooh, this is kind of a hard one because I feel like the Bucks pretty much just have Giannis. So I think it kind of relies on Giannis to have a really big game tonight. You need him to go forward. You need him to give you a big night in terms of scoring and making sure that he's aggressive. Because they don't really have anybody else you can rely on right now. The only thing I would say is, yes, you can say that he's going to go to the line and he's going to go there more than Booker is, but how many shots at the line is he really going to make? It depends on how many free throws are really going to go in. So in that regard, I think the other part of it too is, we did see Book, who was hitting a couple of shots towards the end of the game, but his stat line looks horrible. And that's not a usual Booker for you. And he still got you 27 points. So like I said, given the fact that since Chris Paul's going to have a slower night, if he is going to tonight, if he tends to pass around a little bit more, I think you're going to see a lot more of Book taking those shots, a lot aggressive of a show that Book is going to put on tonight, just because he wasn't able to do it 2 nights ago. And just like I said, given the fact that he was having such an off night and he still got those points, I think I'm going to give the edge to Booker, just because I'm going to give the edge to the 3-point as opposed to the free throws.
I'm going to throw this to both of you. Do you think, because of game one, do you think that Devin Booker's face injury, that broken nose, has anything to do with him slowing down? And do you think he can pick it up again? Because he seems to, since that injury, have slowed down a bit. Do you think that has anything to do with it once or whatsoever?
I don't think so. No, I think he's just in a little bit of a slump. Maybe the first game or two after the nose injury, when he was wearing the mask at first, you're probably dealing with some just like general discomfort, congestion in that area. But I mean, we're like 2 weeks removed from that at this point. So I don't think you can place the blame on it. I mean, it is kind of a pivot point in terms of where his numbers have started to decline. But I mean, he's a world-class shooter. I think if you asked Devin Booker that question, he would say the same thing that I am right now. He would say, no, it's not an excuse. I don't really view that as an issue at all.
Nor?
Yeah, I think if you asked him, he would say no. I just think that it is a little bit of a factor. We did see him struggle with the mask. We saw him take it off, take it on. He wasn't really sure how he was feeling about it. And when he was having those doubts and when he was getting over the injury, that's like Nick said, that exactly is when he was having those slow games and not really being as aggressive as he could be.
That's why I brought up the question, right? Because since the injury, the numbers just have been on a steady, not a huge decline, but a steady decline. So it was just, I just thought maybe one of you two had an in or an out and just thought a little bit more of that something. Obviously, you guys don't think it's a big deal, but the game log does show it. If you go to the game log, look, Jason's got it there for us, and you can see the decline.
Thanks, Jason.
Well, Jason's on. He's
great
on
producer tonight.
Yeah, he's on point now. We got the extra time, and we're cruising. Now we're going into finishing up with the rapid fire contest. It pays 3 times on Monkey Knife Fight. All you need to do is select who you think is going to win. You can either ride with Jason, you can either ride with Nick, or you can ride with Nor. But either way, all you have to do is select who you think is going to win between the matchup. Go down, click your buy-in, and hit submit, and you are in to win your selected prize. We're also going to take a look at another more or less contest this evening. mix things up, and it's a 5 times. Your prize is 5 times if you get 3 for 3. We need to talk about DeAndre Ayton. It's Drew Holiday and Devin Booker with them, but DeAndre Ayton went off the other night, and his line has inflated to 12.5 rebounds.
Connor, just we'll keep it to DeAndre Ayton because the whatever contest with the 3x3, I just can't find it at the moment. So this is a great excuse to talk about DeAndre Ayton anyway. So
you're actually on the contest.
Oh, it had Booker in it originally? I thought it was Giannis in it originally.
It was originally, but that's why I sent the message on the side saying we had to make a change with Booker. I guess they changed it on the site. It's all good. We're on here, Jason. We're riding.
Thank you.
All right, Nora, what do you think of DeAndre Ayton's performance in game 1? And can he duplicate that in game 2? Because, wow, that was something.
I love his game. I can't say enough good things about DeAndre Ayton. I love his game. I think I'm one of the very, very few people who are just like, go to the paint, like use your body, stop settling for threes. You're 7'5", like use that God gives talent that you've gotten from birth and, do something with it. And seeing him do that. And I think I was talking to Jason about this a couple of days ago as well. And I was just like, DeAndre Ayton looks and plays as if he just time traveled from like the 80s or the 90s. Like he looks like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's like little brother. Like he looks a lot older than 22 to begin with. Like he just does not look like he's 22 years old. He just got legal to be able to get a Corona over there. But I think the other part of it too is just he's such a good player. He's so long. He's so athletic. You've never seen a big like that. I think he's a very modern big where you need them to be very agile, very, very fast, very on the get-go, and have that floor spacing IQ that makes you understand where you need to be at all times. And you see that with him, and having to pair that with Chris Paul, I think that's going to be great for his career. And his rebounds have been off the charts. Like I said, 2 nights ago, he would have been the first person to get 20-20. Chris Paul didn't really let that happen. It is what it is. But moving forward, I think tonight, just because he's not going to be sharing that moment with Sarge, I can see him having more minutes, more opportunities to get offensive and defensive rebounds. So I think he's going to go above for sure.
Nick, how do you see that going? How do you see Ayton playing on the glass tonight? That's the real question here.
Yeah, I think Nora's spot on about his age. I would like to see a birth certificate. I think he looks more like Greg Oden's like slightly younger brother than Kareem, but they were comparing him to Kareem. I think in terms of the first like 15 game in a finals debut, although Giannis also did the same thing in game 1. That kind of went unnoticed, but yeah, he's drawing Kareem and Tim Duncan comparisons in game 1 of the finals. So that tells you, it's just crazy how much his stock has risen. Like, I mean, he like 2 months ago, he was still the guy that went ahead of Luka Doncic, and now he's being talked about as like a top 20 player in the NBA. I'm not fully ready to go that far. I think he's really benefited from the guys around him, and they've put him in a really, really good spot. And I think if Chris Paul is on the Knicks next year, there might be a little bit of a reckoning here. With that said, I think he goes over. 12.5 is a pretty generous number for a guy averaging 17 rebounds per game over his last 4. A lot of these rebounds come easy for him, but a lot of them he works for. I mean, he was outworking Giannis. He was outworking Brook Lopez for a lot of that game. I mean, he's oftentimes chasing loose balls, saving them from going out of bounds for rebounds. I mean, he was never billed as this hustle player. In fact, coming out of Arizona, I think that was the biggest knock on him. It was like, this guy doesn't really try at all times. His motor runs low. That's been completely, rectified over the course of this season. And he really seems to be peaking at the right time.
Well, we have Drew Hall. Oh, Nora, what do you think about DeAndre Ayton's chances tonight?
Oh, more 100%. Like
I like
12
that.
is, I don't know what you guys are doing with 12.5. It's gonna be like 20.5. Sorry.
Drew Holiday. Now, we talked about him earlier. We talked about him going head to head with Chris Paul. Now it's just him. His assist line, it's 8.5. Can he get the 9 assists tonight? Nora, we'll throw it to you first.
Yeah, I think we talked about it earlier today quite a bit. He's, like we said, he hasn't been scoring that well. I don't see that changing a lot for him. I think he's settling to make sure that his guys are going, and he's passing for that reason. And he is one of the bigger delegators for the Bucks, right? Like that's kind of what they need. And they need him to make sure that the guys are going, the ones that need to go. They would like to probably see him score. I don't know if that's going to change at any point, but I think his assist numbers are probably going to go higher than 8.5. He gives Chris Paul a run for his money. I can give him that.
Well, he got him on Monkey Knife Fight in game 1 with the in-hand assist and a half. Nick, what do you think for game 2? What do you think Drew Holiday's assist total will be?
I mean, if you want an exact number, probably 8 assists. I don't know. I mean, we talked about it earlier. I think if you're comparing him to Chris Paul, I would side with CP here. The potential assists often do tell the story, especially if you look at it over the course of a series or over the course of a postseason. You just can't expect the Bucks to knock down shots the same way that they did in game one. I mean, we hit on it pretty hard on Tuesday. This is a team that coming into game one was shooting 31% from three in the playoffs. So what they did on Tuesday night is not necessarily sustainable. That's where a lot of Jrue Holiday's assists come from. He's been really steady. I don't think he's going to fall off a cliff and have like 3 assists in this game. He's going to get, he's going to be right around that 8, 9, 10 number. But if I have to go over or under, I'll go under on Jrue.
And then we talked about Devin Booker earlier, obviously. So, folks, that is the 3 for 3 more or less contest that pays 5 times on Monkey Knife Fight. All you need to do is select what you think Booker is going to do. Our analysts on the show both think that he was going to go for more. I believe that's correct, right? Nor? Nick, you can back me up on that? You both said more?
Yeah.
Perfect. Then we're cruising down, and then you select your buy-in, and then you can see your amount and your prize, and all you have to do is hit submit. Folks, thank you so much for joining us on today's Monkey Knife Fight show and the preview for Game 2. Before we get out of here, we're going to ask our analysts one last question, starting with Nick. Who takes Game 2?
If we're going straight up, the Phoenix Suns. I think Milwaukee's going to, they're going to make some adjustments. I don't know necessarily if those adjustments are going to work. I think they're backed into a corner here in terms of how their personnel matches up with the Suns personnel. But I think we see a game that plays out relatively similarly to game one. I think we keep harping on it, but I think the Suns shoot the 3 better. I think the Bucks shoot the 3 worse. I think it's a back and forth game. I don't think Milwaukee's going to get completely blown out here. I think we see a more aggressive version of Giannis that's able to help keep them in the game. But at the end of the day, Phoenix has the 2 best one-on-one scorers in the series. They're by far the better free throw shooting team. Overall, they're the better 3-point shooting team. It's very possible to me that even with a fully healthy Giannis, the Suns are just better. The Bucks are a very, very good team. I don't think they're a great team. I think this is their worst team of the last 3 years. And I think Phoenix is a really, really complete basketball team. I think everyone expected the Lakers or maybe the Clippers to be the team that represents the West in the finals. So it seems like this is somewhat of a Cinderella run for the Suns, but they were the 2 seed. They were right there for the 1 in the last week of the season. They've been a top 2 team in the Western Conference and a top 3 or 4 team in the entire NBA, wire to wire. Like this is not a team that just got hot at the right time. At some point, we might just have to kind of give the Suns their flowers and say they're the better team.
Nor, are you ready to hand those Suns the flowers yet?
I have every color bouquet they would like, whatever they want, they can have it. I tend to agree with Nick. I think for sure it's going to be a Suns game tonight. I think, like I said, I think it's going to be closer than before. I don't think you're going to see the same game. I don't think you're going to see a blowout the way that you did 2 nights ago. I think that was probably a little bit more of a touchy-feely, let's figure out what we got to do for the next game kind of thing for the Bucks, just because it was kind of, I wouldn't say it was a blow off, but I would say it was just kind of figure out like where Giannis had his at, how he's going to be feeling and what you can kind of do and figure out and take away from this game to figure out what to do for 2 nights from now, which is tonight. But just given that, I think we saw Chris Paul have a big game. We saw Devin Booker had 27 points, didn't really have a good shooting night. Given all of that, they're at home. They have the crowd behind them. They have the momentum. And like Nick said, they just have the depth. They have the talent. I was kind of concerned about how this was going to go earlier. I wasn't sure if this is going to go, who's going to end in what, like who's going to win it. But I think at this point, it's kind of a little bit clear. The other part of it too is just the Bucks itself. I know Nick said that it's not, doesn't fall on Bud that much, but I think you got to give Bud a little bit of flack just because he is the king of non-adjustments. I know they don't have a lot to adjust with, but I think if you and I know given the fact that Giannis was injured last game, that's why he played, however many minutes he played, but you haven't seen Giannis play a lot of minutes when he should be playing a lot of minutes, right? Like, I just don't understand how you're not going to have your best player on the court. So I'm going to give a little bit of, I don't know if I have that much faith in the coaching system when it comes to the Bucks. I don't know if they can pull out certain plays and what they need to do to kind of go against what the Suns have, especially their backcourt. So I'm going to give the edge tonight to the Suns. I think it's going to be a closer game, but it's going to be a Suns game.
I also think that the Suns are going to win. Both of you broke it down perfectly on my books. And I also think it comes down to the intangibles too. That building was bumping for game one, and it's got to be a hostile environment. It's going to be super tough. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to Monkey Knife Fight Live here on Monkey Knife Fight on Twitch. We appreciate it so much. That's Nor. That's Nick. I'm Connor. Remember to hit it hard.